Mem Zayin. Chapter 1, verse 47. The Levim, based on their tribe, the paternal line, they were not counted. They were not counted among them. They're going to be counted, but not among the counting of the Jews. The tribe of Levi should not be acknowledged by number, and the heads should not be counted within the Bnei Yisrael. So Rashi says, he says, why are they being counted separately, not as part of the larger number? Because they're considered the legion of the king. The legion of the king, it's another dimension of person. Why are they the legion of the king? The only tribe did not sin with the golden calf, with the Levim, with the Levites. They were the only ones. So they are considered the equivalent of the royalty. I'll give you an example. You take a census of a nation. The king's family is not counted within the census because that's the royalty. Census is subjects. Who are the subjects? That's the census. The king and his family, that's the royal family. They're not part of the census. So because the Levim are Legion Shelmel, the king's legion, they're not seen as commoners. So we speak of the counting of the commoners, the so-called ordinary Jews, as special as they are, they're still ordinary, because every one of them was tainted as a result of the Chet Egel, the sin of the golden calf. Levi, because not one of them actually failed, had any association with the idolatry, they're pure, therefore they're Legion Shel Melech. They have the legion of the king. Okay? What determines whether you become the legion of the king? How do they become the legion of the king? Because they stood fast, and regardless of anything, they were willing even to die. When Moshe said, Mila Shem Eli, they were the smallest tribe, and they went and they killed all the idolaters. What do you mean? The vast majority are not Levim. What happens if they rise up against you? That was part of the Kapara. If you remember, the Sifrono said that what was the Chet Egel by the other Jews? Part of it was they remained silent. How do you remain silent? Such a desecration of God's name takes place in your midst. Chet Egel. So when the Levim killed the idolaters, and again they remained silent, the second silence was a correction on the first silence. That's how the Sifrono learns. That was the correction. So I'm saying, but what makes you Legion Shemelch? That you're willing to put yourself out, even to die. That's what the Levim always considered Legion Shemelch. They're the God's legion. Like Levi, Shimon Levi, when they killed Shechem, they destroyed the community of Shechem. Why? But how do you do such a thing? They said, Nevola Nasus B'Yisrael. Such a tragedy could take place, such a despicable act, we can't tolerate it. They couldn't tolerate it. But again, it's that, what we call, they were zealots. The Levim was zealots, but a zealot goes in two ways. A zealot, regardless of what you're doing, but what about you? You have to take yourself into consideration. A zealot does not take his own welfare into consideration. That's what a true zealot is. The Chofetz Chaim writes in one location, he says, a person wants to become an officer in the army. So you have to go to officer school. Sometimes to rise in rank from private to general, it can take a lifetime. He says, what about if it's a time of war? And a person goes to the battlefield and does a heroic act. What it would take normally a lifetime, or almost a lifetime, in a year, because of a number of events, a person could rise to that level. Because it's wartime. So the Chofetz Chaim says, going back 2,000-3,000 years ago, what was we had a Beis Hamikdash. The environment was conducive to serve God, to do mitzvahs. He said, today, we're on the battlefront. So a Jew to achieve in those years, to have a special level in Olam Haba, every moment of his life had to be dedicated. Today, every act that we do, every mitzvah we do, the struggle is overwhelming. And if you succeed, you're able to rise at a level which going back many years ago, they couldn't rise to that level. Because the level of Mesiras Nefesh, of sacrifice that you need to succeed in terms of choice, it's overwhelming. Therefore, the end result is much greater. Chofetz Chaim. You mean you're praying that it should get worse? Okay. He always sees the cup almost empty, and despite that. Okay. Okay. Just one more, finish. Davar Acher. Why weren't they counted? Hashem had seen that in the future there's going to be a decree that anybody to the age of 20 and 60 are going to die. Bamidbar, they can die in desert. Omer al yu elu bichlal. They should not be included in that grouping. Lefi shem shalim, because they're mine. To bagel. Why are they mine? Because they didn't go astray with the egel. So what I said was, when we speak about the Chet Meraglim, what about the Jews who did not succumb to that? The ones who rejected the Meraglim from the other Shvatim. If you're within 20 and 60, you died. Why? Because you're part of the whole. The decree was on the tzibur, on the community. You're part of that community, you're subject to that decree. So the Levim, if they would have been counted as part of the whole, they would have been subject to the same decree. They would have had to die. So therefore Hashem said, since initially you extricated yourself from that, you did not go astray with the eagle, so you showed yourself that you're not part of that group. So therefore now the counting, you'll be counted as a separate entity. So when that entity becomes, becomes spiritually impure, that impurity doesn't affect you. It's like, you have a community and certain people contract the disease, right? Because they had certain contact with one another. Another group, they were removed. So therefore they're not going to be affected. Because they removed themselves. Despite what was going with the eagle, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if that's the case, you're not part of the group. You remain immune to whatever happens. You're protected. That's the understanding. That one? Yeah, but he prayed for Klal Yisrael. He prayed for Klal Yisrael. I mean, I see. Now you know why you're not a lawyer. Okay. So I was thinking of another question. No. Hashem said to Moshe, when it came to the Chet Egel, I will destroy them, and I will create a new people from you. So what does Moshe say? He says, if you have a table, chair that can't stand on 3 legs, where you have the merit of the 3 patriarchs, could it stand on 1 leg? Right. So therefore, I'm not interested. And that's how he supplicated Hashem. What about the Levim? The Levim themselves didn't sin with the Chet Egel. Hashem says, I will destroy all of them, including the Levim, at that moment. Why don't we say the same thing? Loto be'egel. They didn't sin regarding the Egel. So why do you say everything's from Moshe? What about the rest of them? It's true. 11 of the 12, we're going to destroy them. But at least Levi should remain. So evidently Levi would have been subject to the same decree.
Or there was no instance before that to point to that they separate themselves.
Well, they weren't. Exactly, because they were they were no different than anybody else. Which means like this. When did they reach that level of Loto Be'egel? It's because when Moshe said, Mila Hashem Eli, all the Levium came. No other tribe came. That brought it to that level of perfection that you're separate. So therefore, because they also didn't, what's his name? No, it happened, and they also remained silent. So there was a degree of culpability. But who actually took the initiative when he said, Mila Hashem Eli? Only them. So that capped it off and removed them that they're a separate entity. Wait, so therefore, as a result of that, Before that happened, the decree was all of them. So I will recreate a nation from you.
Same argument we mentioned before about these people that destroyed the property of the temple. So that, that was somehow
It's the story I tell. It's a Gemara in Shabbos, but it's the story I tell. It's the storyteller. Okay. Okay, good.
Before it was